Welcome back to Mind Pump TV, guys. I'm your host, Danny Matrenga, and today we're going to take a look at 3 excellent glute building exercises you can do at home with no weights required. Let's get into it. This is a regression of the hip thrust. Almost all of the same cues apply. So keep in mind, if the bridge gets a little too easy, you're more than welcome to progress it to a hip thrust. From a setup standpoint, pretty easy. I like my feet pointed slightly outward. My knees are right over the top of my foot. My shins are fairly vertical. They're gonna have a little angle, but by the time I finish the bridge, they should be vertical. From this position, keeping my hands at my sides, I like to make a fist and push slightly downward into the ground. I'm just gonna drive my hips up, squeeze my glutes. Again, you'll see that fairly vertical shin I was talking about. From this position, I actually look to posteriorly tilt my pelvis, which is to say I just mainly aim to really squeeze my glutes, come down under control, and right back up. It's a good opportunity, again, while you're doing this, to really try to feel the glutes squeeze hard. A lot of times the feet will come up as you drive through the heels. That's okay. Your main goal here is to try to find a position that allows you to best squeeze your glutes and best really contract those muscles back there. Again, if you have access to a band, you could use that around the knees as well to increase the sensation. And if that's too easy, you could progress it to a hip thrust. That's not something I particularly count reps on. If I was doing body weight, I would just take it pretty close to fatigue, really looking for a burn or a sensation. So the second exercise is a standing reverse lunge. I love lunges in general for hitting the glutes for a few reasons. It puts the hip in a position where we can really recruit that glute to produce force and really get some muscle working back there. But also, anytime you do something unilateral, there's an added stability component, and the hips and glutes specifically play a big role in stabilizing the body. So as you do things like lunges or split squats, which I'll show you next, you have a really good opportunity to get the glutes firing on kind of all cylinders. So from a starting position, it's very simple. Feet are about shoulder width apart, and I like to step back wide enough to feel a pretty good stretch in both glutes as I go down, and then I step right back up and through. Keep it very simple. If you want to bias the glutes even more before you start, you can unlock a little bit at the hips, keep your torso down, and you'll really feel that big time on that glute back there. Looking to, again, get that stretch. As far as how many to do on each side, again, this is something, if it's body weight, I would take close to fatigue. I do recommend doing all of the repetitions on one side versus alternating if fatigue is the goal. Now, the reason for that is if I switch off, each leg gets a chance to recover while the other leg works, and it might mean you end up doing a ton of unneeded reps. So I like to work to fatigue one side of the body first, stepping back onto the ball of my back foot, stepping through the heel of my lead leg, trying to bias the glutes on this hip right here as much as I can. Last exercise is the Bulgarian split squat. I have a bench here. If you're working at home, you can use something simple like the edge of a bed or a chair. The reason I love this exercise, again, as mentioned before, the instability of working one side over the other gets the glutes engaged in a really nice way. I do like how this one seems to prioritize the quads slightly more, but I will show you how to bias the glute again, much in the same way I did with the last one. So very simple setup. You can go either ball of the foot on the bench or flush against the bench. That's going to depend on how mobile that ankle is. For most people, it's probably going to be ball of the foot. Okay? From here, I'm going to slightly lean into the movement, and I'm going to drop straight down. I'm going to feel the stretch again in that same side glute, driving through the heel of the lead leg. I might feel a stretch in the quad muscle here on the back, the front of my leg. That's totally fine. If you push down through the ball of the foot, that can help you get out of that position. Switching legs again once I've reached fatigue. Making sure you're on balance before you start. Very simple. Not quite the same as the reverse lunge, although they are very similar, but I think this trio in particular does a great job of hitting the glutes from a variety of different angles, specifically just using body weight. So if you do have limited access to equipment, you're working at home, perhaps in an apartment gym, all of those movements can easily be loaded with things like small dumbbells. You can use bands on your hip thrusts or bridges, but for the most part, these are meant to be simple and they're easily progressed with sets and reps, just adding more to them. So guys, we went over the split squat, the reverse lunge, and my personal favorite, the body weight glute bridge. Those are all fantastic movements to develop your glutes right at home. Again, I don't want to leave you hanging with just this video, so please do me a favor and grab our free glute building guide. I've put the link in the bio below. It's going to take you to mindpumpfree.com where you can, again, grab that guide, but there's also a ton of other awesome free content that will help you with your fitness goals. If you found the video helpful, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and share it with a friend. Thank you so much for tuning in. Have a good one.